Mr. Lajčak, according to European Union, Kosovo authorities have rejected the proposal of Quint countries, where even Josep Borrell was involved in facilitating the solution about the right of voting of Kosovo Serbs in upcoming elections in Serbia. Given the momentum of the dialogue, this rejection, according to the EU, is putting the process on ice completely?
No, it's not putting the process on ice, at least that's what I hope. But of course we have been involved in trying to facilitate an agreement on the elections, because whatever decision was going to be taken will have its impact on the situation on the ground. And of course for me as a facilitator it's extremely important to keep the atmosphere constructive so that we can continue our meetings and we will have two parties ready to agree to things. So there was an effort led by the Quint and with active involvement of the European Union for almost 2 months, trying to find a formula that would accommodate the sensitivities on both sides. But in the end, yes, the proposal presented by the Quint was not accepted by the Kosovo government, and that's it. That means there will be no agreement and there will be no elections on the territory of Kosovo.
Can you reveal what did this proposal contain?
Yes, the proposal suggested that the only official channel of communication between the government of Kosovo and government of Serbia, namely the liaison officers, will be used for conveying the Serbia's request to the Kosovo authorities. But this was not seen as satisfactory or sufficient by the Kosovo government, who requested the direct communication from the government to the government. But as I said, there are sensitivities on both sides, and the liaison offices are the only channel of communication that exists between the two governments. If we had a normal interstate communication between Serbia and Kosovo, there would be no need for the dialogue. So the dialogue is here to normalize relations, and therefore the Queen was trying to accommodate these sensitivities, but unfortunately did not work.
But dialogue is also one of the channels of communication, and even your side, European Union, before Serbian referendum, January 16th, stated that this issue should be solved in the context of the dialogue. Now, why was it not possible to invite parties and try to reach an agreement in the context of this process of normalization of relations?
Because the holding of elections, of Serbian elections in Kosovo, has never been part of the dialogue discussions. But there is an arrangement which was proposed by the Quint and the OSCE, and that arrangement made it possible to hold 5 Serbian elections in Kosovo in the last 10 years. So therefore we respected that there is already an existing model, and we offered one thing from the dialogue, which is the channel, the liaison officers, because they were established as part of the dialogue, and we also offered our good services to help facilitate the process. But we did not want to create a new mechanism. We really wanted to adjust the existing mechanism to accommodate the concerns from the Kosovo government, and we really tried to do so, and we worked hard, but as I said, in the end the consensus was not found.
What kind of consequences now this will have? Anyway, it was very difficult for you to gather leaders here in Brussels. They were basically 2 failed meetings last summer. In the light of this new development, how difficult it's going to be for you to move the process forward, which is anyway, to a certain extent, stalled?
First of all, the process is not stalled, but is happening mostly at the level of chief negotiators. We are discussing practical issues with the main goal to prepare the 3rd meeting of the 2 leaders. But for this, we need a constructive atmosphere. We need peaceful atmosphere. And unfortunately, of course, as we had a crisis over the license plates, we had situations which were not conducive to this atmosphere. The dialogue and the issues that are being addressed in the dialogue are very sensitive issues. And for this, of course, you need an atmosphere where you can, to a certain extent, trust your partners. You can trust that what was agreed will be implemented and so on. So we saw the reaction from Belgrade, the immediate reaction to this new reality. Of course, this will not help to improve the atmosphere. But at the same time, the dialogue must continue. We do not have the luxury of not having the dialogue, because this is the only platform when Kosovo and Serbia are talking to each other and not about each other or at each other. And therefore, we will have to work with these circumstances, which are not favorable. That's why we were also involved in this process, because, as I said, whatever decision would have been taken, it would impact the dialogue positively or negatively. So we have to live with the realities, and we have to make sure that the process will continue.
But you are mentioning meetings of chief negotiators, which unavoidably brings me to the next question. You have mastered a special kind of mediation
Yes.
in this context. Having a meeting of chief negotiators, them being at the same building at the same time, reaching an agreement like it happened on September 30th, without actually physical meeting.
Yes, that's where we are. That's the reality. Yes, again, because it was not possible for them to meet because of the preconditions that the two parties put forward for such a meeting. And again, this is not my style to say there is nothing we can do. So we have the two teams here in the building, and we talk to them separately. It's far from ideal. Of course, it's much less efficient. It takes more time, but I mean, it helped us to move. So the process is here. We are moving in the right direction, but we are certainly not moving at the right speed, and this needs to change. If we want to have a comprehensive agreement, we do not have all that time to continue moving at this speed that we had in last year. And I also want to say that now, after the Serbian elections, we are entering a unique period when there will be no scheduled elections, neither in Serbia nor in Kosovo, no major elections in the European Union or in the United States. So that means the rest of 2022 and then the whole of 2023 is a unique opportunity when we should focus on the dialogue. We cannot be distracted by the political calendar, and we should achieve something. Because if we don't, then with 2024 we enter in the whole new situation with the European election, with the US elections. Dialogue will certainly not be in the center of attention.
You mentioned lack of trust, which in previous times when another leaders were conducting dialogue on behalf of their respective countries was not mentioned like this. Many member states who receive reports directly from your cabinet consider Prime Minister of Kosovo Albin Kurti as a responsible person for lack of constructiveness and lack of conducive atmosphere in the dialogue.
Look, I'm certainly not here to label my partners and interlocutors. The fact is that both President Vučić and Prime Minister Kurti had a very strong political mandate from their voters. And the fact also is that the current government of Kosovo has also very strong views about the dialogue. And therefore, we had to spend a lot of time discussing the parameters of the process. So for these 10 years, this was given by default. What is this process about? How it should be conducted? Now we are discussing about how to take it forward. So for the last year, we have been more in a crisis prevention mode, or the crisis management. There has been lots of work, lots of meetings, lots of phone calls, lots of exchange of papers, not so visible by the public. We had 2 meetings between the leaders. And we also agreed that for the 3rd meeting, we need to make sure that there will be a concrete results. And this is what we are working on.
How, given your experience with both leaders, it's been a year already that there is a new government in Kosovo. How can you imagine, at what point of your career, of this mandate that will expire in August, you can imagine another meeting between Aleksandar Vučić and Albin Kurti in Brussels?
I want to make sure that the meeting will produce some positive news for the citizens. I want this meeting to demonstrate that Albin Kurti and Aleksandar Vučić are able to sit down and to agree on things. They are both saying publicly and in private that they are willing to come to Brussels. But we want to, this is not enough. We already had them here twice. And for the 3rd meeting, we also want to make sure that this meeting will produce something. Because this is what people expect. And the dialogue has no alternative. This is very clear that without normalization of relations, first of all, Kosovo and Serbia will not move forward on the European agenda. Second, it will continue affecting the atmosphere in the region, because this is clearly a regional thing. And this is the only platform where they meet, where they talk to each other as equals, and therefore the dialogue should not wait. The status quo is not helpful. And after all, the governments will be judged by the end of their mandates about also on how much progress they achieved on the dialogue. So these are the factors that clearly indicate that there has to be progress.
How do you consider parties as equals? Serbia doesn't recognize Kosovo. European Union has a perfect facilitator's role. At the one side, telling Kosovars there are 22 countries that have recognized Kosovo. No way they will withdraw the decision. But you can tell Serbia there are still 5 countries that have not recognized Kosovo. Therefore, all questions are open. Now, how do you balance this equality when you sit on the table with the parties, or when you contact them in their contacts?
The EU facilitated dialogue is the only platform where Kosovo and Serbia are equal. That means there are no flags. They are referred to as Kosovo and Serbia, or Pristina and Belgrade. Yes, so they have exactly the same rights. They are 2 equal parties to the dialogue. We call them parties to the dialogue. So I am not aware of any other forum or platform where this is the case. There is no asterisk, there is no footnote. There are 2 parties which are equal, and they have equal rights to come with proposals about issues to be discussed, and of course equal responsibility for the implementation. And European Union is a logical facilitator, not only because we have the mandate from the United Nations, but also because this process is linked to the European future for both Kosovo and Serbia, and therefore we are also here to make sure that everything that is agreed is built on European standards, European norms, and European values.
You have been asked a direct question during your last visit in Pristina and Belgrade, where you gave 2 different answers. Is the dialogue about status of Kosovo?
No, the dialogue is about the future relations between Serbia and Kosovo. It's a dialogue about the normalization of relations between Serbia and Kosovo.
What's your vision? How do you see the silver lining or the epilogue of the process? I'm not asking you now to reveal the elements of comprehensive agreement, but what is your vision of complete normalization of relations between Serbia and Kosovo?
I will tell you what my vision is when we get there, because I'm here to facilitate. Of course I have my vision, and I'm trying to guide the process in that direction, but in the end it's the 2 parties who will decide. And when we get to the end of the road, then I will tell you whether this meets my vision, my expectations or not. But I don't think it will help if I present my vision for the process, because I'm the facilitator. So it's the parties who should have their vision and who should be able to agree on one common vision.
Parties have agreed on some 33 agreements since a Brussels agreement in 2013. Do you have any statistics? How many agreements lack implementation from Serbian or from Kosovo side, roughly?
Yes, of course. We have a very precise evidence of the state of implementation of these agreements, and we are communicating this to both parties. Every time we discuss, they know exactly how long is their list of unimplemented commitments. And we are also informing the member states about it. So they know exactly where they stand, and we repeat that everything that was agreed in the past must be implemented, because that's the basic principle of international or any negotiations.
But when you weigh them, which side lacks more or implements more?
That's a very tricky to answer, because it's not only about the length of the list, but also the seriousness of issues. So, so some of the issues are more technical, some issues are more political. Therefore, I would not go down this road. As I said, the parties know exactly what is on their list and what they are expected to do.
Because when you listen to public statements of European officials, one would get an idea that there is only one stumbling block, and that is association of Serb municipalities in Kosovo. That is the only thing that has not been implemented, and that Kosovo didn't implement that. That should be done. Is this the right impression?
No, that's not true. As I said, that both parties, both Kosovo and Serbia, have their list of pending commitments. This one is being mentioned publicly, and that's why the perception is there. because it has been spoken so much in public. But I mean, of course, we prefer to speak about these issues in private. This is how diplomacy is conducted. We don't want this to become, you know, again, a political instrument or between the two parties. It's their responsibility towards the facilitator, towards the European Union, and also towards their own citizens to implement what was agreed, what they signed up to, or what they agreed in Brussels. And we prefer quiet diplomacy.
Yeah, speaking about Association of Serbian Municipalities, and in the light of what is happening in our continent, the war in Ukraine, which undoubtedly even dialogue cannot be immune from geopolitical circumstances. What is happening there? Would that be a lesson for you that creating mono-ethnic bodies, especially in the Balkans, can be a next time bomb?
You know, what's the lesson from the Ukrainian war, from the Russian aggression in Ukraine, for me, is that the peace, stability, reconciliations are more important than ever. And that's why we need to make progress in the dialogue, because, of course, it will significantly strengthen the peace and stability in the Balkans. That's really important. Second, I'm always saying that we are here to promote European solutions, because we want to help, of course, speed up Kosovo's and Serbia's integration in the European Union. So you can rest assured that whatever will be agreed will meet the highest European standards. We don't want to create special standards for the Balkans. And there are many possibilities how to address these issues while respecting European standards and while respecting the constitution of Kosovo.
Apart from being special representative for dialogue, you are also in charge for regional issues. And this is why I want to pose my next question that concerns the situation in Bosnia and Herzegovina. Many fear that the perfect field for Putin's special war is exactly Bosnia and Herzegovina. The country is on the list for the upcoming summit on the agenda to be discussed, the situation in the country. Do you share those fears that Bosnia is really in danger from Putin's aggression?
I would not say that. But I would say that the Putin's aggression in Ukraine, of course, is revealing many things that we were taken for granted or we were not paying enough attention to. Yes, of course, the issues of security and defense have become more prominent, our ability to protect ourselves. The need for unity is very clear. It also shows that being part of the European integration process is something that is built on believing in European values. It's a very political process. This is also the time for all our partners to show what they believe in, what are the principles that they stand for. And this is extremely important. And for the rest, Bosnia and Herzegovina is facing several crises. I would even say that this is the most serious situation since the end of the war and since the signing of Dayton. And it's really important that we address this crisis and we find solution to this crisis. And we don't have to be afraid of a potential danger and ignore the existing crisis on the ground. That would be my approach. Soon,
it's going to be in a week or so, it's going to be your second anniversary of your appointment. Your mandate expires in August of this year with possibility of extension. What can you say about your achievements or non-achievements apart from obvious headaches that the leaders have caused you in this process?
Well, first of all, I don't think it's appropriate to speak about my achievements, because my achievements are the achievements of Kosovo and Serbia.
I'm asking because one would say that Miroslav Lajčak is only active in Twitter. We don't see him doing anything else apart from tweeting.
Yes, one can say that, but one would be wrong. Miroslav Lajčak works 12 hours a day. There is so much going on behind the scene. Sometimes you see it, particularly when we have an unfortunate situation like the crisis over the license plates, where we managed to diffuse, or you are aware when the chief negotiators come here. Yes, the fact is that in these 2 years, the first year, we were involved mostly in addressing the future agreement on normalization. the second year, we are mostly busy with the would say crisis management, crisis prevention, and creating the conditions for starting the dialogue on normalization, agreeing on principles on normalization. So it's less visible, less spectacular, but I would say it's even more time-consuming and also energy-consuming. But in the end, it's not about Miroslav Lajčak. It's about Kosovo and Serbia. As I said, I'm here. My team is here in Brussels, in Pristina, in Belgrade. We are ready 24/7. But if the two parties are not willing to agree on things, I cannot make them do so. So therefore, we either achieve something together or we fail together. So this is what it is. It's not Miroslav Lajčak's process. And you can rest assured that Miroslav Lajčak is investing all his skills and experience and knowledge and goodwill into making this process succeed.
Yeah, you mentioned card plates, and this is my final question. The deadline for the working groups is on April 21st, as their first meeting was October 21st. By then, they have to present the solution in front of the highest political level. Are things going to the right direction, so we have at least another meeting or another positive results from the dialogues?
Yeah, the working group is really a working group. They met 6 times until now, and there are 2 or 3 more meetings scheduled, depending on what's the situation. And the meetings were used to, for both parties to present in detail their positions, their red lines, so to say, and also their proposals for the solution. We have a clear map of all existing options, including with the demarcation of which of those options are permanent or not permanent, which of those options are in line with European practice or not in line with European practice. And now we expect from the parties to narrow down the list of these options and to agree on one or 2 that will be then recommended to the political leadership. And we have still some 4 weeks to go, so of course we will continue this process. And I am optimistic, I'm hopeful that by the 21st of April, the working group will be able to present at least one proposal, a common proposal for the solution of this issue.